I've said this before, multiple places, but it bears repeating. No country owns any martial art. When I say this, I am not saying that a martial art didn't originate in a certain place. What I am saying is that arts, that is, learned skills, come from people, not from cultures, not from countries, not from flags and borders. They come from people. And that being said, when you say things like, Chinese martial arts or Japanese martial arts or like Brazilian jiu-jitsu, BJJ is a great example, right? Brazil didn't rebrand jiu-jitsu as a culture, right? A handful of people did. It's not owned by the country of Brazil and under the Brazilian flag. It was done taking Japanese jiu-jitsu and judo and the available wrestling and whatever other influences that were there by a handful of people, and it caught on. That's not a Brazilian phenomenon, that's a local phenomenon. That is a phenomenon of a handful of people gaining ground with their ideas and it spreading. So, it is really the height of ego to say that something belongs to a people. That is ridiculous. That essentially means that whoever created the art, whoever popularized the art, is speaking on behalf of an entire country or an entire culture, and that is extremely egotistical. But beyond that, right, we can say, BJJ originated in Brazil, sure, right? Chinese martial arts originated in China, right? Why do we classify them as Chinese martial arts? What makes them unique compared to other martial arts? And at the end of the day, not a whole lot, right? We find a lot of similarities in French and English boxing as well. And guess what? French boxing really comes from two locations, Marseille and Paris. It wasn't like it was a national effort. And English boxing was just a phenomenon. In fact, what we call boxing proper, English boxing, as a culture was taken over by a single guy, Jack Broughton, who created the first set of rules and institutionalized it. It's Jack Broughton's boxing. It's not British or English boxing, right? And you can go on down the line, right? It doesn't belong to a people. In fact, you read old stories of boxing and they would talk about, Dutchmen and Italians coming in. It was just the art of boxing. And there happened to be people from different countries who were participating in it, and the rule set happened to have been drafted by an Englishman, but that's it, right? And so by terming things, by terming arts by their country of origin, we are selling them short, really. And it also prevents people from treating them as living arts that allows them to continue to grow. There have been several arguments that I've heard from jiu-jitsu guys where I remember years ago, probably a decade ago, hearing somebody say, BJJ has become so global that we should drop the B and just start calling it jiu-jitsu. And he's got a point, right? Even the pronunciation and the improper romanization of jiu-jitsu is at this point fairly specific to BJJ. Japanese jiu-jitsu uses a different romanization and is a completely different art. And if you pronounce it correctly, it doesn't really sound like jiu-jitsu. And so, you could make a case for that. And there have been others that like to say what they do is American Jiu-Jitsu because they do an offshoot. And, what about 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu, which is all no-gi? What about that? It's no longer a product of Brazil at that point. It is a global phenomenon that has crossed so many borders it no longer belongs to the Gracie family or the Machados or anybody else in there. It is now this global thing. When we talk about wrestling, wrestling is just wrestling. Even what we call Greco-Roman wrestling was originally a French rule set, and they just termed it Greco-Roman because they egotistically thought, well, surely if we're doing it, that must be how the Greeks and the Romans did it. Ego. It's all ego. Years ago, when I was a little more yoga curious, I'm not yoga curious anymore, I picked up a book called American Yoga. And just on the dust jacket in the back, they mentioned a quote from an Indian yogi who said, I think India, and I'm paraphrasing here, he says, I think India has taken yoga as far as it can go, and it's time for the West to take the ball and run with it. And this is not some colonialist bullshit or anything like that. What it's basically saying is this is now a global phenomenon, and the trappings of the point of origin can actually stifle the growth and development of the thing. When we look, in my case, Wing Chun, right? When we look at what we do in Wing Chun, if we treat it as if it is this sacred Chinese art that was developed in perfection in the 1800s in Foshan, China, then we have completely cut the legs off of it, and it will never grow. In fact, some people have already done that, and people have done that with Hong Kong Wing Chun, Ip Man's branches, which is what we're part of, and certainly is the globally more popular one. But that right there should tell you, globally more popular. It is no longer a Chinese or a Hong Kong or even Ip Man's art. In fact, if you look at the book Creation of Wing Chun, it is a fantastic book. You should read it. They make a very clear distinction, a very clear conclusion at the end of the book, saying that it is pretty clear from the evidence that we have, and again, I'm paraphrasing here, that there was never a golden age of unified, this is what Wing Chun is. Wing Chun was as loose and fast with its stylistic hallmarks as modern boxing is. You go to two boxing gyms and they will teach you how to jab differently. In the broad stroke, it's still a jab, but different coaches have different ideas of how that is to be done and what best practices are. And that's how Wing Chun has always been. Wing Chun is no longer a Chinese art. Wing Chun is a global art, and we can say this of so many other things. Taekwondo is a global art. Judo is a global art. These things, we should absolutely understand the origin points, and we should understand where these things come from. History is important. It's important to know where the program started so that as each edition, as each version of the program comes out, we have a change log. And this is why lineage, not debates, not arguments, lineage understanding, lineage history is somewhat important, is it gives us the change log of where it's been and where we're going, so we don't have to keep reinventing the wheel. But the fact is that these things do not belong to any flag, any country, any government, any border, even any culture. They may have been created, everything created in a place and time for a specific context, and that context may or may not be relevant anymore. And the fact is that these arts are living arts. They're not snapshots in time from 50, 100, 400 years ago. They are living, breathing arts, every bit as much as painting is, and now people have to deal with digital. Does it mean the old stuff doesn't happen anymore? No, it still happens, but now digital painting is a thing as well, right? And so when we deal with this, understanding the origin and understanding the lineage is important, but it is also important to let the art breathe and grow as it should, because these are the products of people. They are not the products of flags and borders and governments. So just wanted to get that clear, and I will talk to you guys later. Good journey.
Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, share, give the dog a bone. You can follow us on our other social media accounts, and if you really like us, you can head over to Amazon and buy a shirt. You can also go over to Gumroad and purchase some of our instructional courses. All of the links will be provided and also on our website. If you happen to be in the Phoenix area, we would love to meet you. Come drop in for a class, even just to chat. And if you're looking for a new home, we would be happy to have you. So until next time, good journey.